Matt Miguez has plenty on his mind, and he's ready to share it with the world. It's time to hear the Miguez Mindset.
What's going on? Welcome into the Miguez Mindset here on a Thursday afternoon. Matt Miguez here. Conference championship weekend is upon us. The Pac-12 championship is tomorrow as Oregon and Washington will battle it out in Las Vegas. And then on Saturday, a slate full from the Big 12 championship at 11 a.m. all the way down to the Big 10 and ACC kicking off at 7 o'clock. There's a big SEC title game in between there with Alabama and Georgia. Tons of playoff implications happening throughout the country this weekend. Who will be the Final Four? The committee's got a very tough decision to make if things happen the way that most of us expect them to. To find out more about it, Brendan Moore of the Sidelines Sports Network, he also covers Michigan State for Rivals.com, joined me to preview the weekend's conference championship games, plus talked a little bit about some new head coaches in the world of college football. Joining us here on the Miguez Mindset from the Sideline Sports Network is Mr. Brendan Moore. Brendan, really appreciate you taking the time on this Thursday afternoon, man. How are you?
Doing good, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
So let's just jump right into it. We'll go in chronological order. Tomorrow night is the Pac-12 title game, Oregon and Washington, a rematch of one of the biggest games of the college football season this year. Washington was able to come out victorious in that one. But in this game, you look at the betting line, Oregon's a 9.5-point favorite in this one. Who wins this game? Kind of walk me through the matchup and who you see coming out on top.
Yeah, you mentioned that Oregon's a 9.5-point favorite. I think that came as a shock to a lot of the public this week. But Vegas has been high on Oregon all season long. I saw a hypothetical line out there that if Oregon and Michigan were to play this week on a neutral field, Oregon would be favored slightly, but still favored. So Vegas is very high on Oregon, and I kind of see that too. I think they're a better defensive team than Washington. I think the two offenses are pretty even, but I do like Oregon's offensive line better. I think they're better in the trenches than Washington, but I do think Washington has the better receivers. I think that's where their matchup advantage is. So I think Penix needs to have an excellent game. Needs to take care of the football. He's a little bit more turnover prone than Bo Nix on Oregon's quarterback. Obviously, two Heisman contenders. I think this game, the winner, if they both play well, I think the winner of this game could very well take home the Heisman Trophy. So I think you're looking at a game that's more than just the Pac-12 championship, because both these teams still fighting for a playoff spot. I happen to think it's going to be a play-in game for the playoff, and Heisman Trophy could be on the line here. So I'm excited for it. I have Oregon winning, not by as much as Vegas thinks, because I do think Washington is a great team. They've found ways to win in the past, and I think they're a great team. So I think Washington's going to challenge Oregon, but I think Oregon wins in this rematch.
Yeah, it should be a really fun game. That one's at 7 o'clock on ABC on Friday night. And then, we look at Saturday morning. It starts early with Oklahoma State and Texas at 11 a.m. in the Big 12 title game. There's something about Jerry's World and Oklahoma State, right? Last year or the year before, they have that shocking game with Baylor where they came up just a little bit short. And then Texas, right? 11-1. They got a win over Alabama this year. Sam Ellinger's words from a couple years ago when they won the Sugar Bowl might be ringing true. Is Texas finally back? Just kind of walk me through this matchup. Texas is a 2-touchdown favorite. Do they have enough in the tank to slip into the playoff?
Well, I think they're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder. I don't think there's any denying that. They're ranked 7th, so I do think they need help when it comes to when we're talking about the playoff here. I think they would need, obviously Ohio State's off, but they're ranked 6th. But they would need probably Oregon to lose and Florida State to lose. And then obviously Texas needs to win. That's probably their path to slipping into the top 4 there. So I think Texas is going to come in and play with a chip on their shoulder like they did last week against Texas Tech. They put up 57 points against a Texas Tech team. That's not a bad team. They're going to a bowl game. So I think the Longhorns are coming in. They're going to come in motivated. And mission 1 for Texas is stop Ollie Gordon. Oklahoma State doesn't have a great defense, so I think that Texas offense can thrive and put up some points. But I think it's going to come down to Texas's defense, and it's really just stop Ollie Gordon and force Alan Bowman to throw the football. He's not an elite quarterback. We'll see if he can make some plays on Saturday, but mission number one for Texas in order to win this game is stop Ali Gordon. That's priority number one. And if they can do that, I think they can win this game pretty handily.
Yeah, Gordon has been fantastic this season for the Oklahoma State Cowboys, well over 1,000 yards on the ground. The one that really jumps out at me in the afternoon is, of course, Georgia and Alabama in the SEC title game. Look, this one is interesting for a number of reasons. Bama comes into this game 11-1. Their one loss being to Texas early on in the season. Georgia remains undefeated. Feels like they haven't lost in 3 years. But I'm going to admit, Brendan, this isn't the Georgia team that we've come to know over the last couple of years. They've won games, but there's been a couple where you've kind of been like, okay, well, if a play or two would have gone differently, you could have had a much different outcome. Obviously you still have the injury to Brock Bowers. They don't know what his status is going to be for Saturday. What's the likelihood that Alabama plays spoiler to the top team in the country?
Yeah, Georgia's only 5.5-point favorite, so it's not a huge line. I mean, Bama's a really good football team. I throw out last week's results. I know Bama won kind of on a freak play there, but that's the Iron Bowl. That's just different. You got to throw the records out in that game. In this game, these two teams are built to play each other, built to beat each other. These are the top two programs in the country, in my opinion, right now. Saban versus Smart. I mean, storylines keep getting better and better. I think it's going to come down to Milroe, because I think Georgia's going to have a game plan to stop Milroe using his legs. How is Milroe going to be able to throw the football against that Georgia secondary? We'll see. I like Georgia winning this game. Even if Brock Bowers doesn't play, they still got a ton of depth at the tight end position with Oscar Delp. So I like the dogs here. In Alabama, I mean, they need to win and they need help to make the playoff. I mean, you like to think probably they need Texas losing, maybe Oregon losing, Florida State losing would also help. So Alabama, I mean, even with a win, the SEC, if Alabama wins, the SEC could be knocked out of the playoff completely, which has never been seen before in the 4-team era. So I think this is going to be a really interesting game here, and the game I'm most looking forward to on Saturday.
Staying on this one for a second, you brought up Alabama winning and needing some help to get into the playoff. If Georgia loses, are they out?
I think it depends what happens elsewhere. I know that's easy for me to say, but I mean, if Michigan wins, if Washington wins, Florida State wins, you'd like to think those three teams are going to be in that top four for sure. And then if Alabama wins the SEC title, I mean, they won the best conference in America. You'd like to think they jump up maybe over Texas, or maybe Texas stays above them and Georgia slots into that maybe 6-7 range. So, I mean, Georgia's not a lock. Alabama's not a lock, even if they win. So it'll be really interesting to see.
Let's go to the Big Ten title game. I know this one's going to be a little interesting for you, being a Michigan State guy. The Wolverines undefeated, number 2 in the country, playing a 10-2 Iowa team that has just been so incredibly fascinating to watch, because they're breaking history for the lowest point totals in the history of college football, and then covering them. Like it's been so impressive to watch Iowa just, dink and doink and find ways to win. Look, Michigan's a 22-point favorite. There's no sugarcoating this. It would have to take a miracle for the Hawkeyes to win a Big Ten title, right?
Yeah, I mean, someone had to win the crappy Big Ten West, but I do have to give Kirk Ferentz some credit. I mean, he's had a ton of injuries this season. Cade McNamara, the quarterback, who transferred from Michigan, he was out for the season. Eric All, same thing. He transferred from Michigan, that tight end. He's out. Cooper DeJean's out. So Iowa's got some injuries, but they still managed 10 wins and won the Big Ten West. So another incredible season for Ferentz, just kind of outperforming expectations. But yeah, I don't think they really have a realistic shot in this. I think Michigan's going to steamroll them. I mean, we'll see if Iowa can even get in the end zone. I mean, I saw some sports books are offering like 0.5 points per half for Iowa, like over under 0.5 points in the first half, over under 0.5 points in the second half for Iowa. So it'll be interesting just to see, I guess, how many. That's what I'm going to be looking for. Can Iowa put up any points? Because Michigan's defense is rolling. JJ McCarthy's rolling. Blake Corum's hard to stop, and Michigan's getting Jim Harbaugh back on the sideline. So I think the Wolverines, I mean, they're pretty much as close to a lock to win this weekend as anyone.
And then the ACC championship. This is the one that I'm probably most intrigued to see how it plays out. Louisville and Florida State. Florida State obviously comes into this game undefeated, but they are without Jordan Travis. Now, Tate Rodemaker played pretty well against Florida. He wasn't great, but he wasn't horrible either. And Louisville's been impressive. Yeah, they lost to Kentucky last weekend, but very similar to the Iron Bowl. That's a rivalry game. You throw out the records, things of that nature. Louisville feels like a team that can really play spoiler here, and I think Vegas agrees with me because Florida State's only a 2.5-point favorite in this game. What do you see out of this matchup?
I think turnovers are going to be a big emphasis on this game more than any other game this weekend. I mean, Rodemaker took care of the football last week. You saw what happened. A big second half out of Florida State propelled them to a victory over Florida. Rodemaker's got to take care of the football. Jack Plummer on Louisville's quarterback, he's been a little turnover prone this season. So Florida State, a lot of people forget they have a really good defense, especially on the defensive line with Jared Verse and a couple of the other guys. They can get pressure on Jack Plummer and force him into making mistakes. They got also stopped Jawar Jordan, that stud running back from Louisville. So Louisville's got some offensive playmakers. I think if they take care of the football, they win the turnover battle. They could win this game by double digits. I wouldn't be terribly shocked. Also, Florida State, if they win this game, I think they have to lean on that defense and hope Tate Rodemaker doesn't turn over the football and relies on some of those stud receivers that they got.
Are there any G5 title games that you're going to be paying close attention to?
I'm intrigued by the AAC game. I mean, you look at Tulane. They've been winning this season a lot. 11-1's the record, but haven't been winning by a ton of points against some weak competition. But they really turned it down last week. Good defensive performance against UTSA. I think they're calling for rain there, so I think that kind of favors Tulane. I mean, Tulane has a great ground game. We'll see if SMU's defense can stop it. So I'm looking forward to that. I also think the Mountain West is a little bit intriguing as well, just because the coaching factor. You have first-year head coach at UNLV and Barry Odom's done a tremendous job there, looking for 10 wins. And Boise State, they fired Andy Avalos probably 2 weeks ago, so they don't even have a head coach. It's an interim coach right now. So, and they're in a conference championship game, so it's a little bit intriguing there. So, yeah, those are the two I'm going to keep an eye on for sure.
All right, so let's take the role of the college football playoff committee. Okay, here's my hypothetical. Oregon beats Washington. Texas wins the Big 12 title. Alabama beats Georgia. Michigan wins. And Louisville wins the ACC. Who's your 4 teams in?
Okay, I think Michigan obviously would be the 1 seed. I think Oregon would jump up into that top 4. Florida State would be knocked out. I think Texas should jump Ohio State, in my opinion, conference champion. I think they probably go to that 3 slot, and I'd put Alabama at 4, to be honest. I mean,
so Bama makes the jump from 8 to 4.
I think so. Like, I don't think Ohio State should backdoor its way in. I don't think they should at all, because they're ranked 6 right now. I think Texas and Alabama, with a conference title to their name, should be able to jump the Buckeyes if it plays out that way.
This situation just proves why the committee had to go to 12 teams, right?
I like this, man. I like this debate we're having here. I mean, you look at the 12-team playoff, like all the 8 teams in contention for this playoff, they'd be locks right now for a 12-teamer, and we'd be kind of debating, should Ole Miss get in, or should Oklahoma be that last team in, or maybe Penn State. I mean, it's just not as fun to me. I like the 4 teams. It puts an extra emphasis on this weekend's games with Washington and Oregon and Georgia and Bama playing. So to me, I'm a 4-team playoff guy. I know people don't agree with that mostly, but that's just my preference.
Lastly, Brendan, you brought up the Pac-12 title game and the conversation between Bo Nix and Michael Penix for the Heisman Trophy. Look, I'm a Jaden Daniels advocate, not just because I'm from Louisiana, but you look at the numbers that he's put up. I saw a chart earlier, compared Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels against the previous 11 Heisman Trophy winners. There are 9 categories shown in this graphic. Bo Nix leads one of them. He has the best completion percentage out of any Heisman Trophy winner. He's at 76.55%. but every other category, Jaden Daniels is either first or second among everybody. When you see that, how does a Heisman voter look at that and not give it to Jaden Daniels? Is it strictly because LSU's 9-3?
I think it is. If I had a Heisman vote, which I don't yet, hopefully soon, but Jaden Daniels would 100% get my pick. I know a lot of these Heisman voters maybe don't follow college football as closely as you and as me do. So, I mean, they just look at the big games, and the big game this week is Washington, Oregon, and
Yep.
Georgia, Bama. So they just look at those big games and see, oh, who performed the best in the big games. Like if Marvin Harrison went off last week and maybe caught a game-winning touchdown against Michigan, maybe those Heisman voters would be like, okay, now we got to send him to New York. Now maybe he might win the Heisman Trophy. So I think the Heisman voters just look at the big game. I mean, whether it's just kind of casual college football fans voting on this, or I don't know, man. I think Jaden Daniels should win. I don't think there's really much of an argument because the stats you presented, just the eye test too, man. He is hard to stop when he gets going on the ground, and great arm as well. He's really progressed throughout his college career, and my vote would 100% be for Jaden Daniels.
Brendan Moore of the Sidelines Sports Network joining us here on the Miguez Mindset. Brendan, before you run, man, tell our listeners where they can find your work.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at BMooreCFB. That's BMOORECFB. I'll write some college football articles for Sidelines Sports Network. You can find that website at ssn-sports.com. Also cover Michigan State for Rivals. Michigan State just hired Jonathan Smith, so we've been covering that a lot over at SpartansIllustrated.com. So check that out as well if you're interested in that.
What are your thoughts on that hire before you run?
I think it was a really good hire. He reminds me a lot of Mark D'Antonio, Michigan State's previous coach a couple times ago. So, I mean, he's a program builder. He's not going to recruit at a super high level, but that you don't need that Michigan State. Michigan State's kind of a developmental program. I think he's going to do really good at Michigan State.
Brendan, appreciate your time, man. Enjoy the crazy weekend of college football. We'll talk again before the playoff.
Yep, man. Should be fun. Thanks.
Really want to thank Brendan Moore for joining us here on the Miguez Mindset. Again, conference championship games all throughout the weekend. Tons on the line for a lot of these teams, including a Heisman Trophy potentially for either Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr., depending on how they perform in the Pac-12 title game. For more Miguez Mindset, subscribe to the YouTube channel at ESPN Southwest Louisiana. Make sure you hit the bell so that you can get notified when new episodes are posted, and share it with your friends as always. And also you can follow us on social at ESPN_SW. LA. We'll be back next week, talk about the Final Four of the college football playoff, as well as some college basketball and the Pelicans, right here on the Miguez Mindset on ESPN 103.7 Lafayette and 104.1 Lake Charles.